Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Richmond Hills Committee of Adjustment this evening. We have Courtney Cullum as our Secretary Treasurer. Assisting her is Linda Sekas. And from Planning Department this evening, we have Darren Piliageli representing the Planning Department. We will begin with her usual startup and follow through there. Thank you.
Good evening. In the event of an emergency, please exit this room. Outside of the double doors are two stairwell exits. The one on the right exits to the south side of the building, and the one on the far side of the elevators exits to the main lobby. Do not use the elevators or return to the building until directed. We ask all committee members, city staff, and members of the audience to please silence your cell phones. The Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill has been appointed by Council to consider applications for minor variance and consent within the jurisdiction of the Planning Act. The Chair will call the applicant to the podium to present their application and will allow members of the public to comment. When members of the public approach the podium, please do so one person at a time. Please note the public deputation form beside the podium. Please clearly write your name and email address and indicate on the form if you wish to be added to the notification list for the application you are speaking for. State your full name and address to the committee before speaking. When speaking, please address all comments through the chair. Once the committee makes a decision on an application, no further discussion is allowed inside council chambers. No one other than the applicant, the municipality, certain public bodies, and the minister will be allowed to appeal municipal decisions to the tribunal within 20 days of the making of the decision. All appeals and associated fees must be filed directly with the Secretary Treasurer in accordance with the Planning Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening with our applications?
Through the
Mr.
chair, yes.
Direzzi, yeah.
Item I, located at 27 Clinton Drive. I'm the consulting engineer of record, so I will be excusing myself.
Okay, thank
Proceedings.
you. I understand there is also a withdrawal or adjournment. Ms. Cullum.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we recommend the application MV 2437 for 28 Elysium Court be deferred due to improper public notice.
Okay, shall we do a motion on that first? We would like to do that. If I can have a motion to defer this application, and this would be at no cost to the applicant, I understand.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay. Is the applicant present for that particular file? I guess not. It's fine. We can do it in his absence. So if I can please have a, yes, Mr. Direzzi, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I motion that item H, located at 28 Asylum Court, file number MV-24-37, be deferred until the end of the year or sooner without cost.
Moved by Mr. Direzzi, seconded by, I know Ms. Kalbus. All in favor? It's deferred. Thank you so much. We'll move on with our agenda. We'll start with item A on the agenda, which is application number MV 24-03 located at 172 Essex Avenue. Would the applicant please present themselves? Thank you.
Sorry? No, I just have printed. Okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Brianne Robinson. I'm a senior planner with Weston Consulting and here on behalf of the applicant for 172 Essex Avenue. The subject property is located on the west side of Essex Avenue between Major Mackenzie Drive and Elmwood Avenue. It's currently occupied by a single detached dwelling and has an approximate area of 1.2 acres and a frontage of 17.68 meters on Essex. The Richmond Hill official plan identifies the subject property to be located in the Newkirk Local Center area and designates the subject property as local development area. The City of Richmond Hill zoning bylaw zones the subject property as residential multiple fourth density. It's also important to note that the subject property is located within the boundary of the York Region Protected MTSA for the Richmond Hill GO Station. The proposed development consists of a 3-story residential apartment building with 6 units, a total gross floor area of approximately 858 square meters, and a height of 15.24 meters. Access to the site is proposed from Essex Avenue, and 8 parking spaces are proposed in the frontage. The development will include a 1.52 meter fence abutting the parking and landscaped area, and approximately 20 square meters of play space has been proposed for the residents in the rear of the building. I was hoping to use visual representation to walk through the variances because I know there's quite a few, but I will just list them quickly for your reference.
Thank you.
So the first variance is for the minimum lot frontage. The zoning requires 30.48 meters, and we are requesting 17.68. This reflects the current condition and frontage of the site currently. The second variance is for minimum side yard setback to the north and the south property lines. The zoning bylaw requirement is 7.62 meters, and we are proposing 1.27. For the third variance, minimum usable open space as a percentage of gross floor area. The zoning bylaw requires 50%, and we are proposing 9.1%. For the variance for maximum gross floor area as a percentage of the lot area, the bylaw requirement is 100%, and we are proposing 106.18. For minimum landscaping strip for periphery of the parking area, the requirement is 2.13, and we are proposing 1.49. For the minimum driveway width, the requirement is 6 meters, and we're proposing for 14.13. For the minimum rear yard setback, the requirement is 7.62, and we are proposing 4.42 meters. For the minimum front yard landscaping, the requirement is 45%, and we are proposing 20.6%. And for the minimum side yard setback to barrier-free access ramps, the requirement is 0.9 meters, and we're proposing 0.69 meters. So through our application, the requested variances have been reviewed in the context of the Planning Act and the 4 tests. So I'll just run through quickly our justification in terms of the tests. So it's my opinion that the general intent and the purpose of the official plan is maintained through the requested variances. The intention of the local development area designation promotes mixed-use, transit-oriented development, which fosters complete communities and forms of intensification. The designation also encompasses the protected MTSA for the Richmond Hill GO Station, and the policies permit a maximum building height of 10 stories and a maximum density of 1.75 FSI. We are proposing 3 stories and a total density of 1.06 FSI. For the second test, it's my opinion that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw has been maintained through the variances. Regarding the lot frontage, as mentioned before, the 7.68 meter frontage is the existing condition of the property, and this is a technical variance as the frontage cannot be changed. For the reduction of the side yard and rear yard setbacks, the current zoning standards create limitations for the redevelopment of this property due to the constraints in terms of size. We're seeking this variance to permit new development that will allow for more efficient use of the subject property, and it allows for something more contextually appropriate in terms of gentle intensification. For the minimum usable open space as a percentage of gross floor area, the requirement is 50%, and this would prevent new development on the site due to the size. Amenity space has been proposed and includes dedicated indoor amenity space on the ground floor and a landscaped area. It's our opinion that these spaces will adequately provide usable open space for the residents. For the maximum gross floor area as a percentage of the lot area, this provision does not appropriately reflect the allowable height and densities permitted for this local center. The proposal complies with the maximum height permitted by the bylaw, and the variance is required to reflect this. For landscape strip and landscaped areas, this further restricts the site's development potential. Landscape areas are provided with trees and plantings to ensure that appropriate screening is provided, and a fence is also proposed to be installed to provide additional screening for the site. For the driveway width of 14.13 meters, I just want to note that the current entrance off of Essex is proposed at 6.1 meters. But per the definition of the zoning bylaw, the measurement of the driveway width must include the length of the proposed parking spaces. So to confirm site maneuverability in terms of vehicles, a circulation study was done and submitted as part of the application. The study did demonstrate that the site has been designed to allow for appropriate vehicle circulation on the property, and there's no concern from engineering staff. And then for the setback for the barrier-free ramp, the ramp has been designed to meet the AODA accessibility requirements, and we want to ensure that the site is accessible and meets these standards. But due to the ramp's length that is required, the setback can't be achieved. To adhere to this setback, the ramp would have to encroach into the proposed parking of the site, and it's likely that we would lose a proposed parking space. In terms of the third test, it's my opinion that the proposed variances are desirable and appropriate for the site, and it will permit the efficient use of the property and an appropriate form of gentle intensification to allow for the development of 6 dwellings, which can contribute to the diversity of housing in the neighborhood. And then in terms of the fourth test, the required variances are not anticipated to result in negative impacts, and the adjacent and surrounding neighborhood will be protected. And it's my opinion that they are minor in nature. So I think just walking through the different variances, it's clear that many of them that are requested are due to the constraints because of the site size. The proposed development is reflective of the policies of the official plan and the intended development for the area. And that's why we're seeking permission to allow for this development that reflects the official plan policies, but requires the variances in order to do so. I also want to note that extensive conversation was held with various different departments of the city so that we could come to an appropriate solution and proposal for this site in terms of the proposed development. And we are also aware of the conditions that were provided by CN Rail. We don't have any concerns, and we will be preparing a noise study to support the development due to the proximity of the rail line. And that will be submitted prior to issuance of the building permit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application located at 172 Essex Avenue? Seeing none, do we have any comments from the planning department?
Through you, Mr. Chair, planning staff has no comments.
No, okay. Our committee members, if yes, Mr. Duratsi, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question for the planning department. Applications of this nature typically proceed by way of a zoning bylaw amendment in conjunction with various studies and that are done on the property and public input through council as well. So I'm wondering why this particular property a zoning bylaw amendment process has not been done in conjunction with the application. I look under related applications and there are none. If you could provide some comments, please.
Through the chair, it is noted that the zoning for the lands that it does permit apartment uses for the site. And it's also noted that under the official plan amendment that these types of uses are contemplated, but under the zoning bylaw is outdated for this area and needs updating.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody in objection from the community. So under those circumstances, thanks.
Any other comments from our members? If not, I would request a motion. Ms. Kalbas.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve application MV-24-03 located at 172 Essex Avenue, subject to the terms and conditions in the city's staff report.
Moved by Ms. Kalbas, seconded by Mr. Gossi. All in favor? Approved. Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah. Our next application is located at 11 McCatchin Street, and that's application number MV24/0056. If you can come and present that, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Adam Layton. I'm Associate Principal with Goldberg Group. We're here on behalf of the owner of the property, 11 McCatchin. This is a highly technical variance, so I have put together a brief slideshow. I do believe in this instance it would be beneficial to run through it quickly. If Linda could pull it up, that would be great. So earlier this year, council approved a zoning bylaw amendment for the lands, including the subject property at 11 McCatchin. That's shown on slide 2, which will be pulled up momentarily. The development contemplates, that is the property. It's an irregularly shaped parcel with frontage on McCatchin and Poplar. Moving to the next slide, which is the site plan, shows the nature of the development. In particular, there is multiple forms of tenure, both freehold and condominium freehold. The item of interest tonight is the laneway that would provide the condominium access to what are called pottles or parcels of tied land that would be created off of this laneway, would have access through it. In order to establish this laneway, the condominium needs to be registered. Originally, the phasing intended to develop all of these lands at first, with the condominium units, internal and off the laneway, built at the same time as the freehold units that front onto Poplar and onto McCatchin. If we move to the next slide, we'll see the issue. Due to change in phasing, it is desired that the freehold units be built first, which results in the laneway not being registered as a condominium at the time of their development, which means it is deficient of the lot frontage, again, highly technical, that would otherwise be required for the residential portions of the development. So what we are here tonight is seeking relief from the frontage provision, specifically for that technical reason. In the fullness of time, this remnant parcel would be converted to the condominium common element, and thus there would be no further issue. But that is the situation we find ourselves in, and we support the report from staff. We have no issues with the conditions, and we would request that the requested relief be approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just out of curiosity, it's like a temporary relief, which will disappear once it's registered?
Well, once the condominium is registered, it will be the common element, in which point it would officially be defined under the zoning bylaw as a lane, which is considered a public right of way. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you realize whatever we approve here is permanent anyways. Thank you so much. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application located as 11 McCatchin Street? Seeing none. Oh, yes, sir. Please come in. Can you please come to the podium and give us your name? Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. So I live. My name is Dong Chuan. So I lived in 11A Poplar Drive. So I'm the owner of that house. So this project is just behind my house. I think this really includes 14 single detached or semi-detached house. They want to build for 14 or 15. My question is, so today we discussing about they want to change the house front of house, so from wider to the narrow. So I don't know whether in future we still want to discussing something for the height for that house, because my concern is this rear is, I think the closer the new one house is sidewalk distance from my backyard, from the back wall of my house, it maybe just 30 feet. So very close, I think. I think 2 years ago, we in here, we discussed another bylaw, so they changed on that time. They said they plan to build up the 14 new house on this area.
So you're
I think
concerned
that's
about the
very
height?
high. That at that time when I get the site plan, I think it is 12-meter high.
Okay, we can find out.
Yeah.
You're concerned about the height of the project?
Too high for me.
Yeah.
My question is, one 30 discount, this kind of thing, when you are approved or disapproved, you consider about this, maybe I think this high height maybe block the light.
So they're not asking for a variance for the height, but I will request the applicant to let us know how high the proposed development is.
In future, right?
Yeah.
But
They will,
today, just the front.
they will let you know about the height. Is there any other concern other than the height that you have?
Another thing is, when I bought this new house in 2017 years, at that time, they show me the site plan is behind my house, there are only 2 houses. But now it become maybe
Yeah,
8, 10 house, new house. I think it's too many houses.
Okay, no, I appreciate your concern about density. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will have the applicant just advise us about the height of your development, sir. Thank you.
Through the, I believe the concern is the height along Poplar, if I'm not mistaken. So only one lot a future lot would have frontage onto Poplar. It is actually going to be a detached lot, and it would have the parent R6 zone, which I don't believe we provided any special provisions for. So it would be the zone.
You're meeting the bylaw.
We're meeting the bylaw, exactly, yes.
So it's going to be a single-family home that faces Poplar Street. The height would be the same as the other homes, like it complies with the zoning bylaw. All right? I don't know what the bylaw has, but we are not seeking a variance, so it would be within the bylaw requirements that they have the right to build. Okay? Yes, if the planning department can help us, go ahead, Darren.
Mr. Chair, planning staff has no comments. Do you have a specific question? Okay.
That's fine. Any other comments from the audience? Seeing none, and planning department has no other comments, how about our members here? Yes, Mr. Duretzi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just for some clarity. So my understanding from what I can see here is only the units that are fronting on McCashin Street will be developed at this time, correct? In addition to the one on Poplar.
And the Poplar one.
Correct.
All the freehold units,
Okay.
yes.
Other question I have is just with respect to the laneway, the pavement width. 6 meters?
The pavement, yeah, it has a 6-meter pavement width as well as a sidewalk.
Okay.
For a width, I believe, about 7.6.
Thanks, that's all.
Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Payne first. Go ahead.
I noticed on your diagram and looking at the Google image of the area, and this is not part of the property that we're considering, but it is part of your development, or it abuts. Lot 8, sort of unlike the other lots, it sort of extends into the middle of your development. The house that's on that property, which is a single detached home, 2-story, sort of has a further setback, and then there's trees in the back. Have the, I'm not even sure what kind of question I'm allowed to ask on this, but I just kind of, I kind of see us looking at a big development with several dwelling units, and I don't even know how high your condominiums are going to be. But that is a well-established neighborhood on Poplar. It's been there for all of the 40+ years I've lived in Richmond Hill. And I just kind of see that one particular property. If I lived there, I would be very concerned about what's happening in my backyard. And how did it come that you had this kind of property breakdown that leaves this one property sticking into the middle of things?
Well, I'm not able to comment on how the assembly process went. Suffice it to say that people have different motivations to do things. And at the time of the assembly of the lands by my client, they were unable to purchase the property that you're referencing. But we did go through a full zoning bylaw amendment process. The bylaw was considered by planning staff, ultimately provided a recommendation report to council, who voted to accept and adopt and approve the zoning framework for the site plan that is subject to the development.
Thank you.
Mr. Gossier. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask the planning department, do you know what the height variance or what the height limitation would be? Just to address the, I'm sorry, sir, the residents' concern about what the maximum height would be. We know that there's no variance, but maybe we can communicate to him what the maximum height is. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, it's approximately, to the best of my knowledge, 11 to 12 meters in height.
Around 12 meters. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we can request a motion. Any other questions? Sorry. The height, permitted height. They're not seeking a variance for the single family home. The one that the neighbor was concerned about. If you don't have any other questions, I would request a motion for this particular application. Okay, Mr. Duretzi, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would motion that item B, located at 11 Cashin Street, file number MV-24-0056, be approved, subject to the terms and conditions in the city staff report.
Moved by Mr. Duretzi, seconded by Ms. Caldas. All in favor? We have 4. Thank you.
Opposed?
We have opposition. Any opposed? 1 opposed. Thank you. Carries. We will move on to our next application, item C, which is application number CN 24-02, located at 27 Anglin Drive. Thank you. It's you again.
Hello
There we
again.
go. Yeah.
For the record, my name is Adam Layton. I am an associate principal with Goldberg Group, and I am here tonight on a very simple and non-technical matter for this item. We are here to discuss the consent to sever the property located at 27 Anglin Drive to create 1 new lot, 1 retained lot, and a block to be conveyed to Natural Features for, I believe it would go to the city or TRCA, but public protection in any event. The site has previously been zoned specifically to permit the intended development. The lot frontage and area well exceeds the minimum requirements of the bylaw. We in fact have a letter of support that was received earlier this afternoon. Very much thankful to that, to the resident. And we have reviewed the conditions of staff and have no issues or comments with that respect, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application located at 27 England Drive? Seeing none. So we do acknowledge the letter of support. It was received by everyone. Any comments from the planning department?
Through the chair, planning staff has no comments.
Okay, thank you. Staff, our committee members, do you have any comments? In that case, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Gossi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for this week's agenda item C, file number CN-24-02 at 27 Anglin Drive, subject to terms and conditions in the staff report.
Moved by Mr. Gossi, seconded by Ms. Kalbas. All in favor? We have 4. Any denial? 1 denied. Thank you. We will move on to our next application, which is agenda item D, located at 63 Observatory Lane. It's file number MV24-23. Sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Greg Baskin. I'm a senior associate at Landscape Planning Limited. I'm here on behalf of the city of Richmond Hill for the development of 63 Observatory Lane for a pedestrian bridge and plaza and parking lot. So next slide, please. The project site is located at 63 Observatory Lane, which is on the east side of Marshall Street, south of Moonlight Lane, and west of the CN rail. Beyond that is David Dunlap Observatory Park. We're here today to talk about the minor side yard setback relief that we're requesting from 7.5 meters to 0 meters on the CN rail side, which is the east side. The site is approximately 4,000 square meters with a lot frontage of almost 58 meters, which contains an existing industrial lands. Again, the project involves the construction of a pedestrian bridge and access stairway over the abutting railway. This is a city-initiated project, which includes a parking lot and passive open space and a plaza. The official designations for zoning and official plan outlined in the staff report. The subject lands are currently zoned as neighborhood development and residential multiple family floor. The key dimensions of the proposed development setbacks relating to our setback is 0 meters on the east side of the site relating to the bridge structure and 2.965 meters to the pier and 1.3 to the stairs. The site parcel that we're working with is quite constrained. The height of the bridge was determined through the CN rail clearance requirements. The height of that then dictates the length of the ramp at an accessible slope up to the ramp. We're using the minimum distance right now to maintain an accessible slope while meeting the CN rail minimum clearance requirements. In addition to that, we're also meeting the minimum maintenance standards for turning vehicles to utilize the ramp for snow clearance and general upkeep. Some of the key benefits of this project is providing a safe connection from Yonge Street along Observatory Lane into David Dunlap Observatory Park, which ultimately in the future would connect through to Bayview Avenue through the site. That'll also include rest stations and accessible 5% gradient. It supports the following objectives from the city, which is proactively plan for all modes of travel, provide a connective multimodal network to support community travel needs, and also support the city's goal for growing, livable, sustainable community by planning and building infrastructure, including parks, trails, and green spaces to support quality of life, community connection, and resiliency, along with promoting active and sustainable modes of travel. And the last slide here is some renderings. These renderings were shown at a public information center as well. As you can see, the feature is quite elevated relative to the plaza.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application located? Yes, ma'am. Sir, we also have some questions that were circulated by email. Do you have copies of those? That member cannot be here tonight. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Judy Simon, and I live at 24 Sunshine Drive. We received notice that we really didn't understand that our properties would be affected by this new setback of 7.5 meters. And we would like to know, how does that affect us directly? Are we losing our properties, part of our properties, or is the setback on the other side? We'd really like more clarification on that, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I don't believe you'd be affecting the property, but if you can just confirm that. Just one person. If you can give us your name and everything. Yeah.
Mike McCallum, I'm a project manager for the city of Richmond Hill Infrastructure Delivery.
Yeah.
So the 7.5 meter setback only affects 63 Observatory Lane. It doesn't.
It does not affect any neighboring properties. So it will not affect anything that you have, ma'am.
Yeah. And we've had approval from CN to have that setback reduced to zero because we have to cross their property to build the bridge.
It's going to cross the CN property.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Yes, please go ahead.
What about parking? Where is parking going to be for the pedestrian bridge? It doesn't look like there's anywhere allowed for that.
So we provided minimal parking within 63 Observatory Lane because the goal is for this to be an active transportation route that connects to Yonge Street and the future intensification of 16th Avenue. So it'll be more like people walking, cycling, and biking. And then within the DDO, there is plans for 2 new parking lots that will serve people to use there to access the new activities or facilities built within the park. So the goal is to minimize the impact with cars and traffic within your neighborhood. Yeah.
While you're there was some concerns raised by a person who couldn't be here tonight, and I think you might have received the information. I'm just going to repeat some of their concerns, and I'm sure they're taken care of. There was one concern about the height of the barrier on the bridge or the ramp so that people don't throw stones on the train or
Right.
kids like doing stuff like that,
For
unfortunately.
sure. So within the main part of the ramp, it's the height of the railing is for bicycle railing height, so it is taller than normal rail height.
Yes.
And then the railings that cross, when you cross the railroad tracks, there is a taller fence,
Oh, good. Okay.
which meets CN standards.
Okay, so the snow cleaning and stuff will be taken care of.
Yeah.
It's
Snow clear, in terms of snow clearing, the snow
it's a
clearing
huge
will-
ramp. It's,
It's a huge ramp, yep. So we have worked with park operations staff
yeah, I
in terms
know.
of snow clearing. So the snow clearing will be moved off of the CN rail tracks and put onto city lands to
Okay.
melt. It's away from the city, trail tracks.
Okay, and what else was there?
The last question was the widening of
Yeah.
Sunshine Boulevard, which is not part of the city's plans.
No, it's not. Okay. And I don't think we can really address why the city is spending money on this project. I don't want to go there because it's not in our scope of
Right, and none of those questions that were raised by the public or
Yeah,
part of the
okay.
PIC meeting we had back in.
I just wanted to be thorough with her questions. I believe any other comments from the audience on this project? So, yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium and make yourself heard.
My name is Erika Bontovic. I live in the neighborhood, and this newest letter we received does not include the attachment. The first one did, and I looked up Appendix C, which the detailed plan of the area, including the number of parking lots. And it would be wonderful if only bicycles, or mostly bicycles and walking people would access that area, but I think it's unrealistic and people will come with cars and there is not enough parking space and the following streets will be flooded with parking. And I just wanted to know, I think the person who presented it mentioned something about public information session. I don't recall receiving any notification. I am not sure whether the neighborhood had an opportunity to provide opinion and input to the plans itself. It would have been nice. And I was surprised to hear that the zoning of this area is neighborhood development, which is wonderful. And I just want to point out, it doesn't belong to this topic, that the south side of Observatory Lane, those properties zoned as industrial, it's a sore thumb and it should be changed sooner or later, maybe to neighborhood development. And then this whole area and plan would be much nicer. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful insight. Thank you. Maybe you can address part of the public process that this thing went through, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mohammed Kashani. I'm the manager of design and construction with City of Richmond Hill. Through the master plan, which happened 2016, 2017, there were two public consultation or that they had opportunity, resident citywide, to provide comment during the master plan. And also when we started the detailed design, we had a citywide PIC, Public Information Center. That happened February 21st to March 17, 2023. And we had many outlets such as wide media, and then sending it a few Facebook social groups. And also we had throughout the city-wide websites and community centers, we notified public. And also on March 9, we had some sort of virtual open house, and we had 136 participants. We received 532 responses, and that will communicate. It still is on our website, and you can find the result and all the renderings there.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I did not receive notifications. I only remember those 2 8-story building and the proposals, and I came and actively participated. So I didn't receive notification. I live on Moonlight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So, I mean, I counted about 14 parking spaces that is being provided at the other end of the ramp. There was one other concern that you raised, was the number of cars. I just wanted to make sure. There must be other places people can park to go to that place,
So
right? I'm sure.
We conducted parking study, and as a result of the parking study, as my colleague mentioned, there are over 80 parking spots within the RHDDO, we call it Richmond Hill David Dunlop Observatory Park. And also these are the overflow that the intention for these 14 parking stops are just sort of a drop off. So the
Right.
intention is to drop off and be an active transportation mode to use for cyclists, for pedestrian, and there is a more wholesome parking available within the park.
Thank you. No, it just seemed like a lot of trouble to go through for 14 cars. So that makes more sense. Thank you so much. If any other questions from the audience on this particular application for Observatory Park? Seeing none. Planning Department, any other comments from you, sir?
To the chair, no comments from planning
Okay,
staff.
how about our committee members on this side? Mr. Duretzi, we'll start with you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I don't particularly have an issue with the request for the variance. The issue that I have is with respect to this being brought to this committee, quite honestly. It's a major undertaking, a major capital expenditure here in Richmond Hill. And I would have much preferred that this go back to council for what you're requesting here so that we can have adequate and proper public input on this rather than come to this committee. That's the only issue that I really have with this. I just don't think it should be here at this committee. For that reason, I'm not in favor of it. I'd like to see it go to council. They're the ones that have been involved in this. And like I said, it's a major undertaking. It's going to be beautiful, but I think the public should have input through public process. I know it's already happened, but for something like this, I think this should go back to council because I'm looking at a 7.5 meter setback to zero. Given the context of what we're looking at, I don't think it's minor. So I'm not in favor of it for that reason. And I think it should go back. That's my.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to that before we go to other members? Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much for your comment. So I have to say that there is a RHDDO, again for short, Richmond Hill David Dunlop Observatory Committee, that regularly there are once or twice a year we have presentations, and those are public, similar to other committees. And also this has been approved by council. In fact, we receive over $3 million from federal government, which is a great grant funding, one of the biggest grant funding so far we received from federal government. And this has been approved several times for the design, for construction, and also, as I mentioned, through the RHDDO committee, several times has been discussed with respect to the concept plan, for the master plan, for the detailed design. Extensive public information and public consultation has been done. So technically, council approved it, and we do have the budget for construction that has been approved by council.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would just comment that if this has gone to council, and again, given the capital expenditure that's being spent here, that perhaps a zoning bylaw amendment should have been processed to allow for this zero minimum side yard setback through a process to council. So there's no reason that it needs to come to this committee in my opinion. A zoning bylaw amendment process to deal with this could have been done and it wouldn't even be here. That's the issue that
I understand, but just one last thing. This is a bridge over CN rail. So technically speaking, and we received the approval from the CN, and we are in process of getting a agreement from CN. So technically speaking, when it is CN overpass, this will be zero setback by definition. So, but I completely understand your comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. Any other comments from our committee members on either side? See no other comments? Okay, in that case, I would request a motion. Ms. Kalbas.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve application MV-24-23 located at 63 Observatory Lane, subject to the terms and conditions in the city staff report.
Moved by Ms. Kalbas, seconded by Mr. Gossi. All in favor? 4 in favor. Any against? 1 against. The motion is approved. Thank you. Our next item is item E on the agenda, which is application number MV 24/09 located at 16 Baden Drive. And I believe we have a conflict on this one? No. No, it's fine. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'll let you know. We'll probably go to 6, Linda, to start with. Yeah, I'm going to just tone it down a bit. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Rushlow, and I'm the owner of the Hiltz Baden House property located at 16 Baden Drive. I'm here seeking relief to allow a proposed detached garage building to be located closer to the front lot line than the main heritage dwelling, and to allow for an increase in the maximum gross floor area of a garage with an ARU above. For me, this property needs its garage, and my large family with young adults starting out and an aging mother will benefit from additional livable housing. The design of the proposed garage ARU building was intended to echo the original 3-bay drive shed building that was 748 square feet. This particular building sat it's actually sat where the new one is being proposed, essentially. So the idea was to echo this building both in form, cladding, and location. It is also intended to play a complementary and subordinate role relative to the Hiltz Baden House in a manner similar to the original 3-bay drive shed. The proposed site makes the most sense when one considers the new lot/street boundaries, the water course to the west, the location of the Hiltz Baden House, the general topography of the lot, and the location of the newly installed gravel driveway as prescribed in the registered on title Heritage Restoration Agreement. This agreement between the developer and the City of Richmond Hill, signed in June of 2017, dictates where the driveway and potential future garage should be located. And Linda, if you could put maybe figure 6. That's okay. So that was page 15, I believe, of the 54-page Heritage Restoration Agreement. So that particular, like I say, driveway with the berm and the plantings down to the future proposed site was worked out with the City of Richmond Hill and Leslie Elgin Developments. So additionally, I wanted to ensure complicity with the TRCA's living city policies by maintaining as much distance as possible between the garage ARU building and the water course to the west. Locating the new garage ARU building to the front or behind the front face of the Hiltz Baden House as per the bylaw would trigger TRCA objections. It should also be noted that the location of the existing building services available at the street, which we find at the north end of the bridge there, will allow for the new garage ARU building to serve as a utility metering hub, thereby keeping the Hiltz Baden House free of utility meters as requested by Matthew Somerville of Richmond Hill Heritage back in 2017 when we were working with Matthew. So, and it's my intention is if we're successful here to serve or service the Hiltz Baden House itself that's ready to go with the services via or through the garage building. So, so with respect to community impact, from street level, only 3.82 meters of the upper portion of the new garage ARU building will be visible as the building site sits approximately 4.25 meters below the street elevation. The new garage ARU building is set back from the street over 12 meters, where neighboring houses in the subdivision are set back between 3 and 4 meters. With the addition of the newly proposed garage ARU building, the proposed property now sits at just under 4% lot coverage for an urban lot, where my neighbors likely carry a lot coverage closer to 30%. And with that, if they have any questions.
Thank you so much. Does anyone, we did receive a letter of support, just for the record, for your application.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application? If I'm missing anyone? Seeing none? Any comments from the planning department?
Through the chair, planning staff have no comments.
Okay, our committee members? Yes, Ms. Payne.
Oh, thank you. Oh, perfect. Can't wait to show you.
Any others? No comments? How about a motion? Yes, Mr. Gossi, or?
Scrolling up. For you, Mr. Chair. For you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item E on this week's agenda, which is file number MV-24-09 at 16 Baden Drive, subject to terms and conditions in the staff report.
Moved by Mr. Gossi, seconded by Mr. DeRetzi. All in favor? All in favor, approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You have a great day. Our next item is item F of the agenda item, which is application number MV 24-16, located at 55 Lavrock Avenue.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Natalia Yaworsky, and I'm the owner, and I live at 55 Lavrock Avenue in Richmond Hill, Ontario. Today, I'm here to present our proposal to remodel our home. We plan to demolish the existing garage at the back of our property, which is currently accessed by a very long driveway. In its place, we'd like to construct a two-story addition. This addition would include a garage on the first floor and additional bedroom on the second floor. We believe this addition would significantly enhance our property's curb appeal and create a more spectacular and open backyard with more green space. As our family recently welcomed our first child, this addition space would be invaluable for our growing family. We consulted with arborists to avoid disturbing and protect the trees, and we are receiving positive feedback from our neighbors. To accommodate this addition, we are requesting a minor variance to the maximum lot coverage from 30% to 32.72% and a reduction in the minimum side yard setback on site from 6 feet to 278 feet.
Thank you so much. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application? Item F of the agenda item located at 55 Lavrock Avenue. Seeing none, we will move to the planning department, sir.
The chair, planning staff has no comments.
Okay, committee members on either side. Yes, Mr. Gossi, go ahead.
For you, Mr. Chair, I just had a concern that to the right side of the proposed two-story addition, you just have 85 centimeters between your house and the lot line. It was difficult for me to ascertain during the site visit exactly where the lot line was to the existing dwelling, the neighbor. It seems, typically anything under 4 feet seems a bit of a concern to me. And I believe that you're asking, oh, I'm sorry. I misread that. What? 3.94, my mistake. I'm sorry, I apologize.
You okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, wrong application. I apologize. Sorry about that.
That's fine. But the
Yeah.
side yard he's requesting
Yeah.
is 2.
So the side yard is 2.78 feet. Yeah.
We're good?
Why so tight?
What?
So you have 2.78 feet, which
Yeah.
is a very small space, barely enough room for one person to walk by. Why so close to the property line?
Why so cool? Because we need more space. Because it's on the other side, there's 4 feet more, yeah?
Okay, thank you. Maybe some of my, would you be able to respond to that, please?
Yeah, through you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chair. Typically, when the side yard setback request is less than 2 feet, it becomes a concern for drainage and the ability to fit in a swale. So you're at 0.85, so that wouldn't be red flagged from the perspective of being to accommodate drainage. So I think you're good in terms of that. So that's all I can offer. I don't think there's a concern with respect to drainage. and you've asked for it, and staff have vetted it and are in favor of it. So
Okay, great.
And I
Thank
also
you.
note that on the other side, there is ample room to get access to the backyard if there was a requirement for
Yes,
landscaping or
yes,
something.
Yes, that's right.
So based on that, I agree with Mr. Durazzi.
Thank you.
Any other comments from our members? If not, I would request a motion. Anybody motion? No? Yes, Mr. Durazzi, go ahead, please.
through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to motion that file number MV-24-16, located at 55 Laverock Avenue, be approved, subject to the terms and conditions in the city staff report.
Moved by Mr. Durazzi, seconded by Ms. Kelbas. All in favor? Everybody's in favor? It's approved. Thank you so much. You have a
Thank
nice
very
day.
much.
Okay, we move on to our next agenda item, and we have a bunch of letters here for opposition. I'm just going to flag that before we start. If the applicant can please approach, it's application number MV 24-34, located at 16 Scott Drive. Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is David Iqbal. I'm the architect for this project. The project located at 16 Scott Drive. My address is 14961 Yonge Street, Unit B, Aurora, Ontario. Basically, the proposal is for two-story detached dwelling, and there are a few minor items that we are asking for variance. The first one, zoning asks for minimum side yard setback on the west side of the property, 1.52 meters. The proposal is for 1.2 meters, a variance of 0.32 meter. The second one is for maximum lot coverage. The zoning requires 30%. The proposal is 36.54%, a variance of 4%. The other one is maximum building height. Zoning requires 10.67 meter. The proposal is 10.97 meter, a variance of 0.3 meter. And the other one is maximum driveway width. The zoning requires 6 meter. The proposal is 7.8 meter, a difference of 1.8 meter. And finally, the maximum porch encroachment in the minimum front yard setback as required by zoning is 0.91 meter. The proposal is 5.23 meters. And the variance of 4.32 meters. However, in here, I have to point out a couple of things. The item number 4 for maximum driveway width, which is 6 meter. We are actually maintaining 6 meter beyond the property line, reaching to the curb line. So it's only when passes through the property line, we are widening it to 7.8 meter. And for the porch encroachment, it's actually referring to the concrete steps. We have 2 types of steps shown on the property as shown on the site plan. The first one is concrete steps, which actually doesn't encroach that much. Beyond what's required. The second portion of the steps are just landscaping concrete, not concrete steps, like landscaping stones, and they do not have foundations. So, but I guess they are all put together in this measurement. Thank you, and I'm here to address any questions.
I'm glad you clarified that because your formal steps don't look like they're going that far. But the
Yes.
stones, they're steps as well.
That's right.
I see. And they're counted as encroachment.
That's right.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience wishes to address this application? We do have a bunch of letters of opposition. You have seen them, sir.
Yes, I am.
Is anyone here present that would like to address this application? I see none. Yes, sir, please come. State your name and your objection. Yeah.
Right there?
Yes. Yes. Your name and your address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yang Zhao Zai. I'm the neighbor 18 Scott Drive. I'm just maybe just a question because I'm not an expert on those kind of things. I see the property looks like there is 3 pieces of land. There's 2 at the back. Is this about the 2 at the back or the one at the front?
Are you asking what the front of the building looks like? I'm not sure. What's your question, sir?
Because I saw 2 buildings are just laid the foundation and being built on this land. And I don't
They
know-
haven't, have you started construction, sir? I don't think so. No, no.
I mean the 2 on the Clinton Drive.
They're actually built homes on the 2 sides, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Duretzi will confirm that, but I saw.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, what you're looking at in the back will be built and it'll front on Clinton.
Yeah,
On the back.
But it's not part of this application.
Oh,
That's another application here tonight, which actually,
It's not part of that.
Okay.
16 Scott is independent.
it's on the other
of
side.
that.
Yeah, because I see the land just shows all
Right, the
3.
key plan, not
Mhm.
100% accurate.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just confused. I said,
No
it's already
problem.
being built. Why we are applying some
No,
approval?
this is an empty lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, I don't know. Normally, the standard for the setback just looks very close to my house. It's 1.2, and max lot coverage looks high. Again, I'm not expert in this industry. I just feel concerned. It's very close to my house.
Okay. What's your address again?
18.
18 Scott, right?
Right.
Yeah, right next door. Okay, I mean, that's a valid concern in that case. So that's, I believe the setback is on the west side only. Let me just see if it's on your side. Can't read there are no numbers on the. Oh, you got. Yeah. Yeah, I see it. 1.2 meters on your side. He's reducing it by, I believe, from 5 feet to 4 feet roughly on your side, right? It's encroaching by 1 foot on your house. And that's one of your concerns. And do you have another concern?
I think it's connected about the coverage, right? Because it's closer to my house. I guess the coverage is bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his footprint is larger. Yeah.
And also the height, right? Because
height,
Yeah.
personally, I don't think you'll notice the 1 foot difference. It's not a visual aspect.
Yeah. So the main
But
thing.
we will let the applicant maybe address your concerns.
Yeah. Main thing is the setback.
Okay. Sir, do you have any comments on the setback concern that?
Well,
Going
Mr.
from
Chair,
5
through
feet
you,
to
Mr.
4
Chair.
feet, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think 1.2 meter setback is a very common, I mean, comfortable dimension for setback.
Okay.
And as for the coverage, it's more toward the back that we have a little bit. And that is to keep consistent with the current development at the same street. I mean, if you look at 28 Scott, it's actually much more than what we have here.
Yeah, it looks like you're not going as far back as your neighbor actually, on number 18, on the rear yard. Also, I noticed that the existing homes have about 4-foot setback on either side. It visually looks like that as well. Yeah, please, Mr. Duretzi, go ahead. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I know that the applicant is limited to the east side because there's an easement there. Are you aware of that?
Well,
There is an
I think
easement.
we have taken all those points and we have adjusted all that is required for addressing them. Also, there was some issue with tree, which we had to relocate the pool not to be close to the existing tree. So there were a few things that we went back and forth with planning staff to adjust them, make them comply.
Right. Well, the point I'm trying to make is that if you were going to ask for a variance, you would not be able to get it on that side because there's an easement. You can't put the structure within the easement without changing the shape of that easement, registering a plan. But there's infrastructure under there. So you're restricted. The only place that you could ask for the variance is to the west. Now, I also know that in the boulevard, there will be an inlet catch basin at the front corner. So again, in terms of drainage, 4 feet is sufficient to accommodate a swale, which will further be facilitated by the inlet catch basin that's going to be in the boulevard there. So you're good in terms of your side yard setback and your drain.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Gossi.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just had a question in regards to the west side of the building.
Well, let me just finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just want to finish the audience part first. Sir, do you have any other questions or anyone else? Okay. Planning Department, do you have any other questions, sir?
Through the chair, planning staff has no comments.
No comments. Yes, Mr. Gossi, please go ahead.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, question in regards to the side yard setback. I think it says 1.2, but isn't there a jet out there of 30 centimeters? So the application should actually be 90 centimeters, 0.9 meters. Do we need to make that update? Nope. Okay.
It's a permitted encroachment as far as I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments from yes, Ms. Calvas, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to point out to our audience member who had concerns that the west elevation, so the west side of the building has relatively few windows and no windows on the first floor. So your privacy would be somewhat more protected. I hope that makes you feel a bit better. I recognize 1.2 seems like it's going to be really close, but in terms of other applications, this would be pretty standard request.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments from our members? Yes, Ms. Payne, go ahead.
I just question whether it's not possible on an empty lot to design a home that fits and meets the zoning bylaw requirements. And I just find it a bit odd to be stretching out, going from 3 feet to an encroachment of 17 feet. I find that excessive. And it's altering the look of that neighborhood. So perhaps the developer would like to respond to that.
Go ahead, sir.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I am the architect, actually. Well, we proposed another development which is built as 28 Scott Drive, and it pretty much same as this one in terms of look and feel. So it's just to keep consistent with what's happening in there. And it's actually the developer or the owner that actually requesting for this type of this size and proportion to make it viable economically. If you are building a certain neighborhood and houses are being developed in certain ways, you have to keep consistent with what's being done in there, and that's why this is what it is right now. Thank you.
Well, I believe Ms. Payne was concerned that it was not consistent with the other buildings in the neighborhood, but you're saying there are some which are similar. We also noticed that the concrete steps probably are within the encroachment or
That's
close.
right. Yes, yes.
The landscaping is what's not, but it's considered encroachment.
That's right.
So visually, they may not look as encroaching as they really are, my opinion, but just clarifying that. Any other comments from our members? If not, I would request a motion on that. It's Mr. Gossi.
For you, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve item G in today's meeting, file number MV-24-34 at 16 Scott Drive, subject to terms and conditions in the staff.
Moved by Mr. Gossi, seconded by Mr. DeRetzi. All in favor? 4 in favor, opposed? 1 opposed. Thank you. We're going to move on to our next application. Oh, yes, Mr. DeRetzi will be excused. He has a conflict of interest. This is item H on the agenda. That has been deferred, actually. So we're moving on to item I, which is application number MV-24-52 located at 27 Clinton Drive. Sir, if you can come and present that, please.
Good evening, members of the council and staff. My name is Nima Kramdil. I'm the applicant on behalf of the owners of 27 Clinton. We are seeking relief from zoning bylaw 2523 for a maximum building height from 11 meters to 11.43 meters. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. That was good. We would see if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address this application located at 27 Clinton Drive. Seeing none. Any comments from the planning department?
Through the chair, planning staff, no comments.
Do we have any comments from our committee members? Yes, Ms. Payne, please go ahead.
So one building is taller than it should have been. And what about the other 6?
I'm not the builder for any of the other 6, so I only built 27 Clinton. It's actually my parents' home. And to address something that might be a little bit confusing, the bylaw states that it's 11 meters to the midpoint of the roof. Our roof is a pitched roof. It's a mixed pitch and flat. So the bylaw doesn't actually indicate what that percentage has to be. It was something that staff zoning just kind of had a meeting about. I spoke with zoning about that and they recommended, coming to committee for this minor relief. I have a picture of the home as well, if you'd like to see.
Oh, I got one too.
Okay. Yes.
We're good.
So our roof is actually probably shorter than a traditional pitched roof home in the area.
So they are not counting it to the top, to the midpoint, they're counting it all the way to the top?
They're counting it all the way to the top.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
that's why we're here today.
I understand. Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Payne, any other, or did you get?
Well,
what you
I'm
meant?
just wondering whether we're going to get 6 more requests. But no, I don't have any other questions to you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from our committee members on this application? I would request a motion. Anyone? I'll move to.
Sure.
Miss, yes, question?
No, I have a motion.
Yeah, please.
Great. Through you, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve application MV-24-52 located 27 Clinton Drive, subject to the terms and conditions in the city staff report.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. Kelbas, seconded by Mr. Gossi. All in favor? We have everyone approving. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's approved. Have a good evening. Our last application of the day are two applications. We're going to hear them together. They're both located at 1577 to 1621 Major Mackenzie Drive West. Oh, we'll get, yes. There he is. There. So, Mr. Duretzi, we're just hearing the last application of the day, which are two joint applications located at 1577 and 16 through to 1621 Major Mackenzie Drive West. Application file numbers are CN 24-13 and MV 2457. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you. Just waiting for the slides to come up.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, sorry
fine.
about that. It's my fault. I came with a USB. I could have sent it.
That's fine.
earlier. Yeah.
It's fine. You're the last one and the room is empty, so.
Oh, perfect.
Go ahead.
I will take the next hour of your time. No, okay. Good evening, members of
Then
committee.
we'll all oppose it. I'm just kidding. That's okay.
Good evening, members of committee. My name is Lincoln Lowe. I am a planner and principal at the planning firm Lowe and Given Parsons, and I am the planner representing the Monshong Foundation for the severance and variance applications before you this evening. I have a very brief presentation, which I think will be helpful to provide committee with some context of the request for the justification and why I believe that they are good planning. The subject lands are located at the southwest corner of Highway 404 and Major Mackenzie. They are east of Leslie Street as well. They measure roughly 2.2 hectares or 5.5 acres in size, and they are within a registered plan of subdivision. As you can see from this slide, the Monshong Foundation is proposing to build Richmond Hill's largest integrated seniors care campus on these lands. The seniors-oriented housing units are going to be split between a long-term care facility, a seniors affordable rental building, as well as a seniors-oriented life lease housing buildings. This is really part of Monshong's approach in how they build these facilities. They believe in a continuum of care where there's certain housing needs that are tailored to the health needs of the residents that live in their facilities. So, if you're aged and you're still able, you're welcome to live in the life lease building or the seniors affordable building. And then as your health needs increase, there's a long-term care facility on site as well. It's so that seniors aren't removed from the neighborhoods that they end up loving, because we all end up loving the neighborhoods that we live. Next slide, please. So here's the site plan, as you can see here. So the first phase of their facility is the Loop Road, as you can see in the middle, as well as the two buildings to the north. The gray building is a 10-story long-term care building. It is proposed to provide 288 very much needed long-term care units to the city. The green building, which is to the right of the long-term care building, that's the seniors affordable building. That's proposing 348 units. And truly affordable as defined by the province, that level of affordability. Those two buildings and the driveway represent the first phase. The seniors affordable building is designed in a typical tower and podium built form. The tower is 38 stories. It sits atop an 8-story podium, and that 8-story podium is proposed to be the parking structure, the above grade parking structure to service this development. A site plan application has been proposed for the first phase. It's currently under review. Phase 2, as you can see on the site plan, is everything south of the Loop Road. Those are the 3 life lease towers. They range in height currently as proposed between 33 and 39 stories. Obviously, the development pattern of how these buildings will be could change, as a site plan application has not yet been submitted for this phase. If you go to the next slide, I'll briefly run through the proposed severance. Currently, the subject lands are split into two parcels, Block 5 and Block 10 on the registered subdivision. The proposal is essentially to turn these two parcels into three parcels, as you can see on this slide. The boundaries of these parcels are ultimately going to fit the site plan that you previously saw. I will say that these severances are really more of a technical severance than really a true variance, true severance, because ownership of all three parcels are proposed to remain within the Monshong ownership umbrella. The purpose of these severances is really to assist Monshong with financing. Monshong is a nonprofit organization. They're not your typical developer. They have issues kind of getting mortgages because they have much stricter financing restrictions. So they need each parcel of land to fit very closely with each portion of the development that they're proposing. You know, put another way, it's really their preference to keep the land area as small as possible for their mortgages, because it's much easier to get a mortgage on a small piece of land than it is on a large piece of land. So that's why the severance is proposed like this. It looks a little strange, as you can see on the lands, but it's really just it's almost to wrap the buildings so that when they go to the bank for the long-term care building, they're only getting a mortgage on the long-term care building. From a planning perspective, I don't see that these severances give rise to any planning-related impacts. Again, it's Monshong conveying it to Monshong, really. And all the parcels will continue to have frontage on Vogel, where access and servicing is currently provided. And the variances do not trigger, the severances do not trigger any of the variances that are being requested today. So next slide, please. This is a little bit easier to see. This is the site plan underlaid onto the proposed severances with the severance parcels being color coded. Purple parcel phase 2, green parcel phase 1, part of phase 1, and then the red parcel also part of phase 1. So those are the three parcels that are being created. Next slide, please. As part of this application, there are 3 variances that are being requested as well. And really, before I get into it, I will say that I read the staff report, very well written, very comprehensive on what is being requested and the justification for it. I support it. I've read the conditions of approval and I agree with them. But I'll quickly run through the variances anyway. The first variance is related to the definition of stories and as well as to the maximum height. The second variance is requesting a reduced minimum building separation that starts higher than what the bylaw typically requires. And the third exception has to do with the mechanical penthouse, with related to how tall it is and how much coverage it has on the rooftop. Next slide, please. So I'll start with the definition of story variance. The zoning bylaw, and actually most zoning bylaws in most municipalities, limit the height of a story to 4.2 meters. Anything above 4.2 meters, they call that another story. So this proposal is requesting that, notwithstanding this provision, that the first floor and any other floor not containing residential units be allowed to exceed 4.2 meters without that overage counting as another story. As noted in the staff report, these lands are subject to a minister's zoning order. As a planner, I can see how these tools are sometimes useful in speeding up development, but there are times when these zoning orders are written in such a way that certain things get missed. I think this is one of them. The extra tall first story provision is very typical in a lot of zoning bylaws and site-specific amendments. Municipalities want higher first stories because first stories are typically lobbies, amenities, commercial spaces. They want that presence of a tall story, both on the outside as well as on the inside. And you can see in the rendering here, if the first story is about 1.5 the height of the second story and the third story above it. So, it's that tall first story makes that better presence. And I think, that's appropriate here. The second variant, and if you go to the next slide, is for the minimum building separation. It's requesting that a 25-meter building separation is provided between buildings that are 45 meters or taller. The zoning bylaw requires that separation distance of 25 meters be provided above 30 meters. So we're requesting above 45 meters. The bylaw requires above 30 meters. Typically, the intent of this provision is really to do with the distance between towers. So tower, you want 25 meters. The reason why this is being triggered is because if you can see on this slide, the short building that's closest, that's the proposed LTC building. The distance between that and the tower in front of it or behind it is less than 25 meters. And the reason for that is because despite the fact that the LTC building is 10 stories, which would be a mid-rise, which would rarely trigger this building separation issue, LTC buildings have to be built with extra tall floors. Every floor in an LTC building has to be taller than a typical residential tower because they have extra requirements for air circulation, ventilation. They just have more things in the ceiling. So each floor is always taller in an LTC building. So a 10-story building, typically 30 meters. A 10-story building for an LTC, unfortunately, 45 meters. And we get caught in this issue of building separation. So that's why this variance is being requested. And then the last variance, which I don't have a slide for, is really just to do with the mechanical penthouse. Monshong, in all their buildings, really, they put amenity on the rooftop. They really try to put amenity as many places as you can for the seniors, but one of their calling cards is really to put an amenity space in the rooftop. So typically, in a residential tower, you'll have an elevator that stops at the top floor, and then access to the roof is through a ladder. Monshong's buildings, they want access to the rooftop through an elevator. So the elevator is going to pop up off the roof. That's going to create a taller mechanical penthouse. And then they want the extra coverage because oftentimes they'll combine an enclosed amenity space with the mechanical penthouse with the elevator enclosure. They put it all in kind of a box on the roof as kind of an additional amenity space for their seniors. On this one, there's a requirement for a little bit extra coverage because per the building code, a 38-story building needs a second source of water as well. They can't get it from Vogel because Vogel's only providing one. So their proposal is to put a water storage tank at the top to function as a second source of water. Unfortunately, that increases the coverage of the roof. Very necessary, but not zoning compliant, unfortunately. So that's it for my brief run through on the variances and the severance being proposed. I think they really represent good planning. I think the land division for the severance doesn't necessitate draft plan of subdivision. I think the variances meet the general intent of the OP and zoning post the MZO. I think they are minor, both individually and when considered together. And I think they're desirable for the appropriate development of these lands. And on that last topic, the combined severance and variances are in fact essential to Monshong on this development. They absolutely need it to get the funding from the province. They need it to get funding from the CMHC. I don't want to be here in front of you asking for this for something that seems to be so important, but on that last topic, whether or not these requests are desirable for the appropriate development, absolutely they are, because they're essential for this development, because without it, they're not building this project. So that's it for me. I'm happy to answer any questions should you have any, and sorry I took a little bit longer on the last presentation.
No, thank you very much for a very thorough presentation for a much needed facility. However, the huge audience that is there doesn't have any questions, so I'm going to skip to the planning department.
The chair, planning staff have no comments.
Okay, our committee members, starting from the left, Ms. Payne, any other comments? Yes, Ms. Kalbas, please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just have a very quick question. It's on the first variance that you're requesting, the definition of a story.
Yep.
I assume that this, you're asking for any other floor that doesn't contain residential units would be allowed to exceed the 4.2. Is there a total maximum that you're not exceeding? I just don't want to approve 4.2 for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of an odd situation. The seniors affordable rental building is 38 or 39 stories. So the first story will be counted as 2 because it's too tall. So that's at 40. And then the 9th story, which is the first story above the parkade, which actually functions as the lobby and the amenity space of that building, will also trigger a different story, another story, which puts it at 41 instead of 40. So per the plans, there are only 2 floors that are above the 4.2 meters that don't have residential units.
But I think the concern was there was no cap, right? You were worried that if it's above 4.2, it could be 10 meters, it could be 20 meters. Was that what you were asking?
Oh, I see.
No,
Yeah.
my question was answered.
Oh,
It was that
okay.
total maximum wouldn't be
Wouldn't be
in some
above.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there weren't like,
That's a good question too.
that there
but-
weren't 10
Because
stories
you're
that were
saying
going to be
anything above
4.2.
Yes, it's 6.5 if you want, and I'd be happy to put that in as
Okay,
a
it would be
max.
nice to have that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's 6.5?
Correct. Yeah.
Can we add that to the condition, do you think, or we just leave it loose? I think it's important to limit it. Thank you. So we will add that.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Duretzi, yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just clarification, if you don't mind, life
Yeah.
lease versus rent.
Right.
What can you tell me? You know anything about
This
it?
question is nuts because I have to answer
Okay, if
this.
it's too long an answer, we're done.
No, it's not too long, but I think it's interesting. A rental, I think everyone knows what a rental is,
Yeah.
right? So don't need to kind of explain that. But life lease is actually, you purchase the right to live there, but you don't actually purchase the building itself. So, on the face of it, it looks no different than just buying the place, but you don't actually own the place. You just own the right to live there. So you don't have to do the maintenance. You don't have to do anything, but it's just you're purchasing the right to live there. And
Is that resellable? The right?
yes, you can
resell the right.
transfer the lease to a family member. That's typically how it happens. And then there's also a market to buy the life leases. The reason, and I asked this question many times to Manshang, why do you do this? And the answer that I think I'm the most comfortable with is that in Ontario, you cannot really say a building is built and only people aged 60, 65 can live there. That's age discrimination.
Correct.
A life lease, you kind of can. That's the rule of the life lease. You have to be 65, whatever the age is, to purchase that life lease. That is their way of kind of making sure that everyone in that building is supposed to be. I mean, they're building for the elderly. That's how they want to build for the elderly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's definition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So through Mr. Chair, if I can also add life lease also would imply that there's typically services provided, that like senior services, like some sort of assistance in some ways.
That's right.
Which are specific.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
makes
but,
sense.
but that's why they're not quite a rental. There is as a very minor, no, I want to call it institutional, but there is support provided.
Mhm. And that's very much deliberate, and that's the point of these.
And
types of
also it's
buildings.
graduated, right? It
That's right.
depends on the level of seniority or your ability.
You can
Anyway,
absolutely get a life lease and require no services, and that would be fine. Yeah.
well, something for us to look at when we get older. I'm already there. Anyways, let's get this one. Any other comments from our committee members? If not, I would really appreciate a motion. Any direction, anyone? Mr. Duretzi?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would move that application file number CN-24-13 and MV-24-57 located at 1577 to 1621 Major Mackenzie Drive East be approved subject to the terms and conditions in the city's staff report.
Would we add that condition of limiting the maximum height to 6.5?
Yes.
So Linda, you can get that in there. Moved by Mr. Duretzi with that added condition, seconded by Ms. Kalpas. All in favor? There you go. Enjoy
Thank you
the
very
rest
much.
of your evening.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Yeah. So if we have any other business, we're still alive, right? Yeah.